we own ourselves. I will come to that in a second. Incidents that occur at the external portals, our patrolling assets, for example, etc. And we also rely on commercial suppliers, of course, for certain type of services we have to provide within this Eurosol regulatory framework. Now, as you can see, we have different data sets and different sources and different standards. So we have created the Frontex Fusion Service. So the Frontex Fusion Service is like, you mentioned, a business concept. So it entails business processes, policies, procedures, but also the technical infrastructure to provide what we call services to the member states. So information services, business service to the member states. And that's where the GIS comes in the game. That's where we aggregate the different, we call it fusion, but in reality it's aggregation of different data sets and information.
It's similar as testing in ECDC and report typing.
We compile the European situational picture and community functional intelligence picture, and then we distribute it. So we use our own visualization, or we distribute it via the Eurosol network to the member states. And for this Eurosol network, it was a different example, basically, but it's basically interoperable. I'll show you this.
What is it called in your organization? Is it called this Frontex Fusion Service?
The Fusion Services is basically
it's the whole package.
It's the whole package that is basically contains everything: the business document, the business processes, basically everything, and also the technical infrastructure.
The reason why I'm asking is because from an EEA point of view, if you would ask people, they would think that ReportNet is the only infrastructure that provides the integration between national and European.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, yeah. Many people would think that. It is very interesting. Because it's used by some commission organizations, I mean other places as well. It's not only EEA, but there are others who are using it as well, and therefore for them the perception is this is the only one. That's why I like to have the names of the projects, because then you can tell them, listen, there is more going on than this.
So basically the heart of the Frontex Fusion Services from an infrastructural point of view is the Frontex Core GIS. So I told you that we have the Frontex Situation Center and Risk Analysis Unit dealing with GIS, and they also use their GIS and the back office, etc. So that was not an easy thing to implement core GIS with all the data in there. And it still takes a lot of effort and talking to make sure that those things are stored centrally and are served from a central place. So I think there's nothing inside of the typical structure, I guess. Let's come to the data sources once more. So we have, I told you, this cooperation with EMSA. We rely on OGC standards, WMS, and also web services to a certain extent. We have also internal data sources, as I mentioned, the incidents that we collect from our operations that have been placed there. Some risk analysis layers, and also obviously the national situational picture, because member states also have an obligation to compile a national situational picture and to share it and with themselves. So that's all put together. We aggregate these different types of information, and then we will basically distribute it with Frontex organization. And there are a couple of examples. Perhaps I'll show you a live example. There you can see the vessel traffic that comes from EMSA, for example, and the vessel detection as well as anomaly detection. GIO incidents I mentioned, these are our internal data sets. And environmental information, which is a service supplied by an external company. And we distribute it also via the Eurosol network to the member states. So basically, as I said, we aggregate the different information services, build them together to a business service or information service, and just to get you an idea of the different types of information that we get from the two agencies. So what we have in 2014, we have this maritime services that we provide within the framework of, and the Eurosol regulation is quite specific in that respect. So who's interested in that can read it out. It's really to the technical detail of which type of reporting systems have to be implemented, etc. Really very detailed in that respect. So So for the maritime services, since the very beginning, we have been reliant on a cooperation with our colleagues from EMSA, since they are the maritime center of excellence. So basically, there was no need for us to reinvent the wheel. And the cooperation, and you can hopefully confirm that, is very excellent, basically. So we have frequent meetings, we see each other every 3 months, so it's really good. I mentioned the environmental service, which is our third actually, provided by commercial supplier. Incident reporting comes from inside. And there I have to say, let me emphasize it. There we may have information, for example, that is interesting for our colleagues from ECDC, because we know here where the people are coming from. So what happens is basically these people come, we have experts in these operations that do interviews that ask them specific questions, and there are some very skilled language translators that even can differentiate different Arabic dialects. So obviously these migrants have an interest to stay, so most of them claim to be nowadays Syrians, but some of them may not. So you have these experts that can, even a couple of kilometers, they can differentiate, it's impossible that he is from Syria. So what we do differentiate between claimed nationality, so that is what they would like to be allowed to stay in Europe, and the real nationality. And this is perhaps something that ECDC might be interested, because imagine that we have migration from Caucasian areas where you have a pandemic, so you may want to know that we have an influx in this area of the European Union, so perhaps you need to stay alerted to start your reaction chain. So I think it makes much sense to have such a workshop to share this information of what we have available and how you may be interested in it, exactly. And also the analysis there. Okay, so I was asked by my colleagues from Tourist Analysis to include a couple of their slides, which I shan't be doing. So they also collect data from the member states, so they have a network connected with the member states, because they also gain intelligence, obviously. And then in this intelligence business, it's really difficult to, unless you have really basically built trust, which takes sometimes over years to get this information. So the Risk Analysis Unit has built this network, and moreover member states are happy to share this data. Also with third countries, there's some agreement with Northern African countries which provide data, but also on the Balkans, for example, they provide information. So it's this is all then combined basically and represented perfectly and shared. They also use, and then we come to the I don't want to say mushroom, but we say they use their own tools where they share information among each other with the analysts. They use this, the geoportals, basically they use that for production of service, and then when we come to the sharing, we put it on the core GIS to the member states, so they have a unique source of information. So what we do in terms of image intelligence, that we cooperate with the European Union Satellite Center a lot. Basically, we are interested in having a reference map, obviously, very close to covering the land borders. So here we talk about land cover. So maybe the Environmental Agency has got data sets that might be interesting for us in terms of land cover at the external land borders. But there we are pretty much interested in. We do change detection, more in third countries, Northern Africa, Syria, over time to see what there are, especially in potential embarkation places. And we see could be a place where we identify that, for example, there's some construction work, there's some huts being built and maybe used for shelter, etc. So we use that. And we use that also for intelligence validation. So what I mentioned before, the migrants upon arrival are interviewed, and then they are asked basic questions. So, did you see them to establish the route, basically? Because we want to really know where they come from. So also dismantle those criminal networks. So then they are basically asked for, so did you see any landmark? Did you see that? Did you see that? And then we can go back to the image intelligence and verify whether or not plausible or it's more like a bit of fantasy. So just to establish the routes they were taken. Also perhaps interesting for ECDC is where recently, basically since this year, the risk analysis unit was tasked also to look into internal migration and internal internal movement. So basically, once the migrants are here, to see how they. I'll give you a practical example. Let's say that the external borders at Greece are very, first of all, close to third countries, but also very, you know, it's relatively easy to get across there. And then with this inside Greece, the processing is also not according to Schengen standards all the time. Basically, but they don't want this data, so they come via Greece, but then the destinations are usually Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, etc. But we, until now, we don't have any clue about those internal movements. So if we detect them at the external borders, we know about it. But now we are looking also in that, and that might be also something interesting for ECDC. When, for example, we know that okay, we have this typical internal movement of migrants. By the way, most illegal migrants are not coming illegal to the European Union. They come legally using work visas, study visas, and all this stuff. And then they wait until it expires. So most of illegal migrants we detect, or a lot of them we detect while they are exiting the European Union because their visa expired basically. So the majority of illegal stayers inside the European Union come originally legally, and then they just expire. So if you just have a second, let me quickly perhaps show you this one.
It's very interesting to see that because your organization is extremely different than ours in the sense of data. You know, we are just throwing it out. You know, data is there. In this case, we definitely do that. Yes, please look at it.
Basically, here we have, because we, in theory, we could also get a dedicated interface for every specific service to focus on very specialized.
Is it real-time data you have, or?
It depends on what. For example, this is, let me quickly show you the EMSA service. So we were talking about it before. So our customers are interested also in receiving the information about commercial ships. And what we have here is, by legal basis, all commercial vessels above 300 cross tons on international voyage carry a so-called AIS receiver, which is automatic.
From EIS?
That's AIS. Automatic identification system. So we can pick up the signals and we display that. So they have a big interest in that to see, because you know our customer, we talk about the Hellenic Coast Guard, we talk about Guardia di Finanza, we talk about the Guardia di Civil in Spain, for example. They are not only working in illegal migration, but also in maritime safety. They work also. So basically, EMSA and Frontex we share with our stakeholders. So we have in the Hellenic Coast Guard users that actually see the same, but with an EMSA application. But then we have our operational folks that see it with our application. So it's quite interesting to see. And obviously. This is being provided using WMS.
We are talking about 25,000 vessels per day. Each of the vessels has every 6 minutes recorded position.
Wow. So it's quite an amount of data.
Yeah. And that is also only IIS. Then we have the LRIT, we have other sources of information, we have completely different information in our.
Wow.
It's quite a lot of data.
That's the legal one.
The legal one.
Well,
Yes,
the one that records position. Then there is also BDS on top, where you have the BDS doesn't mean that are illegal, but are detected by satellite.
Okay.
And then you can correlate.
For operational planning.
Okay.
This all.
So BDS is
That's
another
vessel
system
detection.
like
No,
AIS?
BDS just means vessel detected by the satellite. So with the satellite we detect the position of the vessel, and then there is uncorrelated BDS, which essentially is the position that doesn't have any correlation with the IAS or RIT, so suspicious
We're coming close to the end of the.
Yeah.
Is the VDS
Are there any
automatically
questions to anybody?
Yeah, there is image processing that automatically detect from the satellite unit the
I can
sign
characterize that this is
where
a
the
vessel?
position is.
For us would be maybe interesting that with the real-time data, how they do that big
Yeah,
amount of data.
No, again, we do also real-time data handling. So, with more on air quality right now, and water, there is a chance that we do the same. So there's definitely, again, an integration there that we definitely should look into.
The quality of these services is a crucial factor because we have to provide to them with a very high performance in terms of performance, capacity, availability. So, and to put all these sorts of information together, correlate the information, provide additional service is a challenge for us.
We have the same air quality, every hour data comes in over 300 parameters from 26 countries.
So at the end of the day, I really don't know what big data means, but it means velocity, volume, and variety of the source. We are doing big data since a while. Since even before the definition.
Since before the word was invented.
So that's just an example of the from the environmental services. We have different.
Just curious, do you provide this mostly as a view service, or do you have a feature service or download and all?
No, more as a view service. And that's being this is being provided as a time-bound WMS. So each one has a time stamp.
But we are facing the need also to provide through a WFS service, so also feature services.
Because the AIS data or any other data streams you could easily provide as feature data, and there may be, you know, satellite
So that's what we do.
field
in the
offices
future.
that
That's the end of the presentation, and that's any more questions.
Thanks a lot to Jan and the team. That's great. It was a great session.
Thank you very much. But I learned from all of you. I've talked to some of you already. I think we should do this again, right? So I really believe that a workshop like this makes very much sense. What I would suggest is, what I do is that I, first of all, I will mail you all this, the presentations that we have, so you have it. But at the same time, I will suggest you some ideas of how we communicate together. I would also like to understand from you whether it's okay that we keep this as an open environment. I believe that that's great. So anybody, if we do it in shared, like with Inspire, for example, I think it's great that anybody can come in and listen to this, including industry. I think it would be great that if we are using software and those people are here, that they can participate, because I think they can learn from our problems and maybe they have solutions that we don't know about. So I think, so I will suggest all this and send you that. Ideas, and where I ask you whether you're okay with that, and I will try to figure out a way. If you have ideas, please send it to me. But I think we should have a kind of communication platform, something simple. I don't think that we should open a huge discussion forum there, but it should be something that if you have a project you're working with, or you have a problem or whatever, that we can mail to each other, so we can fairly quickly tell you what we know. Maybe it's something we just point you to something, or we tell you, oh, we have solved it that way. I think that could be the best direction to go. So that we start tangling up our expertise and that we learn from each other. So I will come up with some ideas on that, and then let me know your view about it. Let's build something up so that next year we do it again, and maybe more targeted. Any questions?
I just wonder that your experience is very valuable for each of the European country, where we have also the same problem inside each of us country, which is actually how we coordinate GIS internally between the various silos of information that we got at the national level. So any experience that you can gather is very helpful also at the country level.
Okay, good to know.
Very sure.
I don't know how to organize that on my
really
big.
First you start at your level and make us.
But I think that I want to keep it open in the sense that countries can also participate. If we do it like integrated, maybe with Inspire, maybe it's such a bad idea that we have that there is a possibility of allowing.
The next conference it would be a presentation to be made at this conference itself instead of within a workshop. Because actually, it also gives a good signal for the member states. Actually, how they should be better in coordinating and having a joined up work.
Okay.
At the end of the conference.
The director is speaking on Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be well.
Maybe it makes sense to include a 5 minute.
I will ask Christine wants to do that.
Oh, Chris is doing
Yeah,
it.
but I will mention to you.
Chris is flexible.
Do you think we could create a mailing list?
That's what I was
You
propose
have
something.
that already shown.
So, but I will propose something, maybe slightly better than a mailing list. So let me come up with some ideas, and I will send out everything, and then you can reply back to me. You can come up with a common view, something that is not demanding too much from all us that is so busy, because we have to be realistic that we all are extremely in our work, and we only have a small amount of time to help each other. So we have to find a way where we can do that quickly and easily, and that at least where we can collect our problems or good ideas, if you have that, we can collect that, and then in a GIS day or a workshop or whatever we do, we can then use that as a compilation. So we can say, okay, these are common problems everybody has. Let's figure out does anybody has solutions on that. Let's then have a presentation about that. So then we organize the workshop of the year. So that's my idea that I have there. And I will have a little resource on my side that can maybe organize this a little bit.
Yes. I would like to mention in this context the European Union Location Framework activity, which is funded by the ISA program, which is Interoperability Solutions for European Public Administrations. So one thing that we could do, given the fact that also the EULF action is also trying to come up with common solutions for the problems that we have identified, is to use that as a resource to tackle some of the issues that you have identified.
Okay.
So what I propose doing is that we get in touch and that we see how the EULF could contribute in a practical way to the questions that you have raised.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think that is it. I close it. Thank you very much.
Unofficial initiative about the visa for a drink in the evening.
Yeah, that would be nice. How do we organize that? Well, do you know good place?
It was a good brew pub restaurant.
I mean, there's plenty of places. I don't know which one is, let's say, with some big tables or a place where we can kind of meet and mingle. First time, 7:30.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just throwing an idea in the air.
And where?
Well, I'm not from here, so
Does anybody have an idea?
Oh, this was an application
Yeah, because
using a GIS online.
I would have to send it to you. There was a good place there.
You have your mail?
there is this street, like a small pedestrian street with lots of parks.
There is a square.
There is a street, there is a square, there are, and there are houses also.
To be precise.
To be precise.
No, that's not the one
Which
I was
coordinate?
There's a belfry or a church at the end.
A square or
A square. Somebody can send a long
This specific place is called
We can just meet through that couch.
So leave him here. Leave him here. Leave him here. He stays here. No, I mean up
Cool, geht's los?
It's very easy. When you go main, out there, the field. Well, the best approach.
Time, the large time. You know what time do we say? 2 hours? 7:17?
Yeah, it's already
Straight down from
19
the
October.
if you go this direction.
And we can just listen to the city.
Very easy.
Yeah.
What is that brew house called?
Yes, Please, I can do it.
Nice meeting you both.
Okay, what's the part here? I know, but how do you say here? Ah, okay.
I think that's a good choice. It sounds like they all have some good, probably a better selection.
Maybe.
First episode organized
Okay, I have to set up our booth, so see you guys later or tomorrow.
Are you gonna move to 165?
We want to meet somewhere. Just stop by and well, just stop by and we make it late. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Bye bye. See you tonight, maybe.
And so I have an opportunity also. The next thing I'm looking at is organizing and I am because one of the major reasons is that I need this way to get patterns in a practice.
You want to do a recording? Do you want to publish this?
We are doing data analysis, and then this functions are really sophisticated, and they need to be reported in a nice way that
Well, first of all, do you know when they've uploaded it?
yeah, so we have a system where they can
Notifications.
So, and I want to look into that. It's called modules that they include data and also XML files, Excel files, or whatever, and then I can take the next step. But then the thing is like,
network open source for the metadata catalog. So it's my colleague Paul that we maybe have met or will meet here. And we use FME server. So after
2 weeks with the FME desktop license. We just noticed that we need the FME server license, and we just need to do more with that. On the database, we use SQL Server and the S3 database, so geodatabase, but also still some RKSD database, some old RKSD database that we cannot get rid of. So we have to keep. When I started in EEA 7 years ago, I joined Jan's team, and George from GRC, which was a former colleague, told me, you are going to work with a crazy guy in a wheelchair who invented some flash viewer to see some map online. I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, if you put RKMS and you can just do a viewer, you will see it's really cool and it will be fun. Okay, good. Something interesting, as we'll see. And so we had like, I don't know, you know better than me, but some viewers, some application for some topics, like cover, like quality. I would say less than 10 viewers with RKMS, with a flash behind it, RKSD. A crazy thing, it was working pretty well for the time being, with a lot of crash and hiccups, so I spent a lot of time to try to understand it, to recover it, and to make it work. And to keep it online, because it's something we want. If you want people to use your stuff, it must be online as well. We all know that. I think we should all know that. And after we've been lucky that as we went away from RKMS and invented GIS server, so we migrated to GIS server, where Jan again used his knowledge with Flash and developed. We used Flex Viewer to see our map application with web services behind it. And now we moved, and we are still in the process of moving and migrating to the latest technology, which is GIS Online. So I will show you a bit more on that, why we use GIS Online, why it's way more cost effective for us, takes less money, less time, less people, and it's why it's way better for us to use GIS Online today to make our web application. So when I'm talking about web map viewers, I'm first talking about, I will talk about web service, but before that we have map documents in ArcMap, because we are using GIS server for this, or even in a map for Office. I don't know if anybody uses a tool from S3 map for Office. Yeah, Ross, so it's something, we talked about Excel data before, but when you have Excel data, it's something crazy. You can just use an Excel data sheet, see it, your info, as long as you can find some geographic thing in it, also geographic information with a map, and publish a service from it. First time the guy showed that to us, I was with Ian in New York, we could not believe it. We said, if you do that, you are a genius, it will be rock and roll, and they did it. So it's something really cool, because it means that anybody, even if he doesn't have a real GIS knowledge, can use his Excel data, his points, let's say, to create what he needs. And he does the first step of conversion, which is very important. So he learns first to see if his data are good or not. Often you just think like, okay, there is a problem. But also it's time we don't have to do that. It means it's really time consuming, and it's not a funny task to do, I have to say, most of the time. So
not for you.
Yeah, I'm talking about me. For me, it's not fun. So from there, you can create web services. So ArcMap document from map office, you create web services. We put these web services together to create web maps. And these web maps, we just configure them, make them more beautiful with templates, and we have web application. So in the past, to do that, we were having these web services, we were using them in a Flex Viewer configuration, development, consultants, a lot of money, a lot of time to get something out. Today, this process, most of the time I just ask how to do it. You can do it like, if you have some data and things, in 1 hour you can have a result already. So, I mean, you go from months of development to days. So it's really, really fast. So I'll show you, I was planning to make a demo, but I don't know because we have a documentation, so I'll just show you this slide, how it's happening. So we have a map document in ArcMap, like we all know. We create a web service from it. We create a web map here. We put some layouting around this web map. Like, all what I show you is really simple, it's a matter of clicks. And this web map can be used by anybody, anytime. When I say anybody, we had a launch
3 weeks ago for the water, baking water quality. So on our website we have this web map, not this one because it's land cover, but a web map with the baking water station, the quality of water with a view on Europe. And we had a press release, and a lot of journalists said, okay, it's really cool, but could we have the map to put in the article on the online newspaper, but with Denmark only, or Belgium, or whatever, but I'm not really interested to show directly the Europe, but I would like to show. And it was like a matter of clicks, and now even faster, you're just changing a code in the heading of the bit. So I will go in the story. So the guy of communication came to me, Sebastian, we need this map for Denmark. Can you just create one with Denmark? Yeah, just to create it, it takes minutes. Here you go after, you can say, oh, thank you very much. And we just thought, okay, we have Denmark, now Belgium came, UK, blah, 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 blah. So in the future, it will come always at countries. I'm more interested by the country side. So we took this template, so this, if I put it on my screen, you will not see anything. So this thing, which is on the website, and we thought, okay, at the place of asking Rolf for doing it myself to zoom and recreate the map, which is easy to do, it's easy, it takes minutes. But I don't want to do easy things and it takes minutes if you can do it even easier. I just asked my consultant who developed the template. So the template, I will show you after I think it's a thing. Okay, can you add something like country equal and the code of the country? So if you type BEL, Belgium, you will have the map zoomed on Belgium directly. So now next time the journalist asks, my colleague of communication knows, I just need to just send that, I can give it to them. So we just like...
on any map.
Any map, yeah. So I mean, it's just to show like in the past when we had Flex application, if you wanted to change or improve it, it was taking a lot of time because we had to have a developer go in it, add functionalities, create problems. Hey, we just, okay, can we do that? Yes. 2 hours, it was done, it's ready for the next time, so we just can really move fast and adapt to what we want to do.
So you will be able to go to nuts 1 or nuts 2 level if you want to.
Yeah, if we want to, yeah.
Because in some countries might be
right there. It's just like, it's just a question of like, to...
Introduce the code?
Yeah.
That's code.
Yes. So it's, and we have the code, first put the code, it was a code with 2 letters, I don't know, I'm not good because we was 2 ago, and Rolf told me, why did you use this code in 2 letters, nobody used that. So yeah, she knows that, but okay, let's, and just, we made him and he just, the code, so no, he just implemented, so he just like, moving fast in the development. So, before, so now I'm talking about infrastructure. When I say before, it's when we were creating this kind of application, let's say for the bathing water of the WISE project, what was happening, and we use this board, we had ETC, so ETC is a topic center which is working for EEA, so it's thematic topic center, so in my case it will be the water people. It's a kind of consortium, but most of the one I was working with were sitting in Prague, so I'll check quickly. So, we had ETC, they were doing something, preparing a web service to put in my application. They were sending it to Atkins at the moment because Atkins was in the game.
Also the company that does the development.
They were doing the development of the map application. Atkins was doing his things. Okay, so they were exchanging together. I don't know how many times, but probably a few times. After they were coming to me, to EA, guys, we want to publish that on Discomap. Discomap, what it is, it's our web services interface. So all our web services, if you go on discomap.ea.europa.eu, you go there, you have access to everything, it's free, you can use them as much as you want. Don't have issues. So it was happening that Atkins was sending MXD, at that time you had MXD linked to it, and Azure database. Of course, first time, relative path not included or something wrong, doesn't work. It's not my business to fix your things, so guys, it doesn't work. Do it again. Okay, they fix it, they send it to me. Okay, it's there, great. Is it like you want? Yes. Is it like they want? No. Okay, bam, 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 bam again. We have a fourth guy coming, it's the thematic guy in EA, which is the boss. When we are ready here and we are happy together, is it like what you want? No, of course. Bam, bam, bam. Right? Just imagine how long it could take. So we had the launch of water. 2 weeks ago we were starting this big process because you cannot be ready before because you don't have the data. And what was happening is this. It's a huge ping-pong game with 4 people or more. Like crazy. It was madness. It was like a lot of stress. Everybody was really nervous because you had to be ready and nobody did a mistake. It was just like, it was impossible to work like that because too many steps. So what we do now, this. Not a beautiful slide, thank you, Ian. So what we have in EEA, a centralized place with our GIS farm. This come up year over year. So that's where everything is happening and the service will be published. And what we managed to do, if the ETC or any other actor we want can publish directly to this command. So they don't have to go this game like that before, they do that directly themselves. So what's happening, ETC or Atkins, it depends which name, is directly publishing here. So they don't need me anymore. I'm just there to check if it's online, if it's working, if there is a problem with the server, but I'm not there to add that to publish anymore. When I say ETC, it's not only ETC. So for this decentralized publishing, you have Hugo.
All actors can see it at the same time.
We have GRC with the Maratlas. So we put machine for them, and we just like, some people, we just like, for the Maratlas, we say, you have this machine. Of course, they don't know the name of the machine, they don't care, they have an address. They go to maratlas.discover.europa.eu. You publish what you want, and we manage it in a technical way. We keep it alive, we keep good performance, we keep space on the disk, we check everything is working, but we don't care of the content. So you do what you want and you can use the services. And I have to say it's working really, really well like that. We have a few issues, but are fixed by some tricks. It's often, if it's happening like that, you guess that you don't know what's happening on the server, meaning you can have a guy starting to publish. Let's say I give access to Hugo, and Hugo decided like, I have 50 other things to publish, let's go. He published 50 more services, but maybe I'm not ready on my machine, I give to Hugo to have 50 more services. It happened lately with one of the servers we have, because one consultant started to migrate things for a climate data project there and published 100 web services that we didn't expect on this machine, meaning the machine get overloaded, so we, with tools to keep track of what's happening on the server, what's coming in, just to know what's happening, because people will never say, the first time, the first time they will say, I'm publishing a service on your server. Yeah, thank you. And that's, after 2 times they will just start to, which is a process, it's long. So it's going to the ArcGIS farm, or to the cloud, to ArcGIS Online. Sometimes they can publish directly to ArcGIS Online, even though we try to avoid that. And the application process, like construction is going on, so ArcGIS Online, and after the consumer. So what we do, we monitor, we maintain, and we just add functionalities if there are some other stuff in the templates. So for us, it's really, it was a huge move to do that.
The big difference here is that we moved away from being the final product as a map service, becoming the communication environment to get to the end product. So the map service that is there and the web map that is there not necessarily goes out to the public. It's a way to communicate with all partners what is happening. So it made a huge difference. And they have a central place to work with you. So,
it allows us to make like 3 launches on 5 months without to have to worry too much, except worry that maybe we have millions of people coming and of course it's too many and something will not work, but that's clairement son background, like we say in French.
and some more big.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes I say millions. I'm kidding, but I'm not so kidding. We can have a lot of requests, but I mean, we cannot expect that, but that's normal. If it dies because we have too many access on that day, it's good.
But we have, how many filters do we have?
We had on the biggest was bathing water, and we had a crash of 1 minute. It's just like, it's not even a software crash, I think it's internet which, so I mean, we can say it's working really well. So people can publish, create, modify the web services, so it's our partners, and we store everything in EEA. When we saw that working, we just thought, okay, that's really great, because we have the ETC. If we give them some trust, if we say, okay guys, we meet you before, we talk together, we explain you what we want, you of course need to follow some procedures. So from metadata you need to follow that. For the name convention of the service you need to do. It's not like I give you access, you do whatever you want. There is some stuff we want because we want to have something clean or as clean as possible and manageable. We just noticed, okay, it works really well. It works really, really well, better than expected. So we see that many other problems in EEA that we leave to the future. Yeah. What's coming next? So that's a big project of Jan now. It just, even in EEA itself, we have so many groups and some groups with all these users, and like Jan said before, can be sitting in a place and so on. So sometimes we have like skeleton coming out with like a guy who developed a GIS in Access. And okay, no, we need to use that, and the guy left because he's on pension. Okay, we use that. Yes. Good question. Or like a good application to make assessment, which was developed in Access as well, a crazy thing. It's not working. How can we fix it? Okay, of course we find a way, but we just like all these things coming and things we want to avoid. Or like the topic center, which is the guy sitting in sit anywhere, developing a tool to help him, but this tool is mandatory and it's just like developing a technology we don't masterize, or like they develop a new viewer which will be in Java and we don't use Java, but then we put the viewer in EA, we need to maintain this Java thing, we don't understand anything of this thing, so what should we do with it? When it will go wrong, because it will go wrong, anything goes wrong once. So the idea Jan had, I would say, and so we have now, is to have everything centralized like in a common workspace in EEA. So to have a place where people will remote connect, but we work like if we were sitting in the same office, in the same place all together. So using a set of software which are prepared for everybody. So we decide, of course we are not going to be like crazy maniacs, okay, you use that, another thing. No, we need to work with the people. People work with QGIS, they don't want to work with ArcGIS for some reason, or vice versa. You need to be open, but we need to decide what we will give to the people, to give the data, so people can work on the common workspace, on the same place, and to do things together. Meaning, we don't lose things, and we see what's happening. Meaning also, if someone is leaving, because people are always leaving, dying or getting sick or going to another place, things are still there. Because what's happening today is someone is leaving, he worked on this Access GIS on his computer, he's leaving, he gave a backup to the helpdesk.
You have to know that topic centers, they are all over Europe. Yeah? It's not just one. It's not that this is all EA. This is EA and its partners working for us. And they are spread all over the place. Every topic center is under a consortium of 10 organizations. And if they are doing work and building things, most of them get just the end result. So when they leave or the consortium change, that work needs to be done. Because most of the time they didn't deliver us how they have produced this. So that's why the central workspace has been created. We are thinking of creating for those things that need to be repeated, because there will be always things that are just ad hoc, I don't care about them. But the things that EE needs to be able to repeat every year, we need to find a way to centralize that. So in the EA, there is a way of transferring that to somebody else if required.
Yeah, so this is a whole idea. So of course we have to use the software I showed you before. Yeah, so I was thinking about social if I need to help it. So there will be a lot of management there. And what I can say is my task in EA, since I'm working there, really moved from a technical guy and more like a GIS guy, more to a project manager and to a maintenance guy, and just really to check what people are doing, how to help them, and to more project management, which is really fun as well, and still having to keep really hands on the technology to be aware of what's happening, what's there, and what will come in the future. Because I can say in EEA, I'm really happy to work there because we are like early adopters. Meaning, when there is a new technology, often we just jump on it. Like when there is ArcGIS 11 will get released, we will install it on the machine directly to see what we can get of it. Because what's the advantage of it? So we don't want to get stuck with all the things, but try to move on. Because often when new technologies are released, it's right also the way. So like moving from ArcIMS to ArcGIS server and ArcGIS Online, I'm always surprised when I see that not so many people are using ArcGIS Online. Because when I see the power of ArcGIS Online, how easy it's making our life to share everything, it's just like I think it was really useful. Yes?
Can I ask you a question about that ArcGIS Online? Because I noticed a few people here are using it quite heavily, which is cool. And I wondered if there was a discussion about having data on the cloud and whether that was an issue, because we're sort of running into that.
I just asked this question to the guy 2 weeks ago in the Informi conference, because it was Andrew showing the power and the advantage to store data in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, having so many web services and with so big data, we don't know if it will be cheap or manageable to be in the cloud.
we have a mixture.
Yeah.
And it depends of what type of data it is. For example, if the data is secured for whatever reason or needs to follow certain rules which needs to stay in Europe, it stays on on-premise.
Okay.
There's no discussion.
That's
But there are also other data sets that are, for example, Excel sheets that are having a nuts code with a value where they make a color mapping based on nuts code. There is nothing secure about that. It's a public thing. If I make a service locally, it will be harvested anyway. So there is no need to worry about it. Then that can go into the cloud. So we are deciding a little bit. I must say also GIS Online has also a limitation today. It goes very well for feature services, and if your requests from a feature service perspective, because what happens is that your data is always loaded towards the client before it can be rendered, so the size is depending on that. I mean, you cannot have the whole land cover or a huge data set of 20 megabytes being put in there if you have to load it completely to your client. So, and therefore then it also stays on premise.
That's what
Because map services can only be handled from our GIS server.
this is all cloud, I would say. This is EA cloud. Because like they use it, they like it, they were putting the cloud, but the GIS Online cloud is like exactly like Lance said. We've been checking also for the Amazon cloud and this kind of thing, but for us I don't see any advantage today.
Right now it works very well for us, and it's cheaper. But there is this other limitations, political limitations, or that forces us to have our own infrastructure.
As we're kind of pushing our FME cloud a bit, you can, this is interesting to us because it's obviously pretty successful at GIS Online with this community anyway, which is great. So, but we have some convincing to do. Some, well, yeah, there's pros and cons, like you said, and for private data, that's.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
I think the key issue was to provide something like a hybrid approach from the beginning. Well, it's not true. At the very beginning, it was cloud only. The first criticism that came from the field, logically, is we have sensitive data, they cannot reside in the open cloud by no means. So we had then a second, let's say, layer or tier, which is on-premise only. But obviously, this meant own administration efforts, own maintenance, own servers, and all that stuff. So ultimately, we ended up in a hybrid approach, allowing the customers to distinguish any unsensitive data can be in the public cloud, wherever that should be, and any sensitive stuff on-premise and home servers.
And
That
it works
was the
for us.
key
That's
success.
what we do. So any, let's say, map configuration telling that service is linked with that service and you should lay out, that can all go in the cloud. There's nothing you can do with that if you cannot access the data. So we can have map servers that are only intra, but still definition or configuration of how they are put together is cloud-based because there is nothing that you should be worried about to access. So there is, you can, it works very well, this configuration.
Is it by like annex theme, or it's not that general, it's more specific than that? Does it depend on the resolution of the data? Or?
It all depends per data set. It might be that certain data sets we can't put publicly in the cloud because there is no
no private information.
Yeah, exactly. Or there is, I mean, it's
like land cover, land use might be okay, but not parcel.
Yeah, or for example, protected sites is something we will put on premise because there are bits and pieces in there that are secure.
Yeah.
So then we keep it completely here.
Same with some of the.
But for EA, I mean, it's easier to go in that direction because most of our data is accessible public anyway. We have no, we are disseminating it anyway. In other cases, like in Frontex, you might you cannot use that. I mean, then you have to have the cloud completely. You have the same technology though, but you put it all internal. Yeah. So, but what is important is that you can use it as a communication mechanism to get the job done. And that is very different. In the past, this was at the end done. The map service was the last step to get it then out and publish the map and whatever. And we see that wrong. We have to move it back to where the process happens of creating it and use that as the basis for your discussion.
Yeah,
and that is a big
becoming a real
difference.
workplace because.
So whether that happens in the cloud or happens internally, it doesn't matter.
People are using GIS Online like a workspace, like so. all this exchange happening here between all of them is not happening there. They create a group, they put their things, they just prepare a map, prepare an application. Is it like you want? Oh no, I would like the pop-up to be showing this information. I would like to have this information. I would like the water should be blue and not red or views. But all this thing is happening there. We don't care. They just all together, and after the end, we just need to maintain it, do some management, user management, security things maybe. And
But the collaboration power that you have within GIS Online, that makes a difference.
Yeah, sort of
That's probably in your case
decentralization.
different, because there it's just one service. You don't have that level of collaboration maybe that is required.
And just it asked us to, we had a bit to show to the people, to teach them how to use it, but they really jump quick and so it was really.
So the real power of that is the decentralization of that publishing capability, so that all the different
Well, the fact that you
thematic
can,
groups.
well, the fact that you can go in there and play with it. So I can say to a manager, look, this map is there. Can you look at it? Oh yeah, the title, I think we should change the title or the description. Oh well, can you just click on the edit button and change it the way you want? Okay, do that, and that's the difference. That you can use it basically, and you don't have to have a document email sent out which has to go to an official who then gets to a consultant who, no, you can just say, just do it there. It's all secured, you can play with it, and when it's ready, the product goes out publicly. And we disconnect it from, we take it basically out of the folder where they were working in and put it in the publishing folder. And now it is fixed. So that's the way we changed the package.
And it's even better because you see, like, we had some colleagues in the commission, they saw, wow, can I have an account? Of course. And you always have some kind of geeks or nerds, and like, oh, this is the weekend I did this map and we should use it. So a way to give interest people to the GIS, it's a question we had, and we said before, we change of director, we change of management, or colleagues that don't know what to do. Just sometimes when you show how easy you can, of course, we have this problem, like if it's too easy, people will do stupid things and will do things which are wrong and they should not do it, and after we have the problem that we should say it was not good what we did and you should not do that, blah, 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 blah. But still, if you show people how easy they can do stuff sometimes and what they can do, and they play a bit themselves, they really get enthusiastic and see the power of what they can have for their project.
But it becomes a real, I mean, if you go in EA's environment on this in GIS Online, you will find 10,000 maps there. Yeah? And some of them are just plays and trials, and some of them are just on the brink of being published, but they never get because for whatever reason. So it becomes a PowerPoint environment. You know, you're making your interactive map, and some of those things we really publish out, and some of the things are just meant for communicating within the organization about issues and live problems. So it's another way of thinking. Other questions?
How many published maps do you have then?
We have about, I think, real published maps that are all publicly about 400.
So what's your next step?
The next step
is it finished?
No. We learn, but this explodes, right? So what happens is that more and more communities come together to do this. And we have then the problem, how do we handle that? How do we find out that they're not overloading servers? How do we find out if a service is breaking, that those maps, that we know which maps are broken? Things like that, so we start needing to put monitoring tools on top of that. And there, again, I use FME as a way of, we harvest that stuff because it's all REST API, so we can grab all that stuff, we put it in a database, we interrelate it, and we see, okay, this service is broken, okay, those maps are in trouble. And we can immediately act on it. And we have other tools that say, okay, this map service moved from one server to the other, the URL changed. So we made one tool saying, make all the services from there to there, and it goes in and changes it. So we use basically GIS Online as a database, and where we are changing the things independently, so we can assure that things are not broken.
So you have GIS Online as the repository, then you have your own system which essentially harvests information from that, so you index it in your own internal database. You have a record of that
we're not taking
configuration.
everything, but we take the parts out of it that can change, that are important, not to make it broken.
So you have sort of metadata about what's up there. But you don't version it.
You mean maps as such? No. Well, what happens, what we do as a definition is that they have a bathing water map, for example, and they need to change it. We ask them, save it as a new map, so it gets a new ID. Work on that, discuss it, maybe they use other services, is it ready? And then they say yes, okay, then we take the old one and we swap it with the new one.
So the old one's not lost?
So no, the old one keeps running until you're ready to swap. Yeah. That's the way we have. Is that it? Any other?
No, I wanted to show how easy it was, but I think we have one more presentation. It's more
Yeah, I
interesting
think it's
than
better
one
that.
presentation.
Let's see.
I'm not a GIS expert, as I said in the beginning of the introduction. I'm an operations. Basically, spent 8 years in the German Navy. Later worked in NATO before joining Frontex, where I finally got asked to work on GIS, basically, as a project manager. But I was able to follow most of the presentations. So I have a bit of a different approach because the presentations were a bit technical so far, so I will just try to explain a little bit Frontex. The governance that we work in, we use GIS with what we have, the data that we have, what we do with GIS, and what we serve, and also the already existing interagency cooperation that we have with our colleagues from EMSA. So I will talk a bit about Frontex, Eurosol, which is a governance framework. Some of you may have heard about that. Frontex Fusion Service is where we implement our chip, or that's how we make use of our GIS infrastructure. Then we can have some questions. I put on I'm not going to read that, the mission statement of the European Agency for the Management of the Operational Cooperation at the external borders of the member states of the European Union, which is the official title of Frontex. So it's quite, I bet it's the longest title of any of the European agencies. Short Frontex, and what we basically do is we coordinate operational activities with the member states at the EU external borders, the Schengen external borders, which is, you'll see that they are air borders, sea borders, and also land borders. Basically, that's what we deal with. So we are quite an operational agency. We go out, we have joint operations together with the member states all the countries. Basically, just to give you an idea, what we are mainly facing with is are the main it's not a mouse button. So, I mean, some of those issues are also present in the media. So we had like huge migratory pressures in these areas a couple of years ago. Now it has really focused on the central Med, and especially our Italian colleagues are, I guess, well aware about the migratory pressure that we face over the central Mediterranean sea borders, with thousands of arrivals almost a day to the smaller island of Lampedusa down here. So that is basically where we have now a huge pressure where we implement our operational activities. We have less pressure at the eastern European land borders in this area. Still we have some pressures here, but basically operational response was implemented. Just to give you an overview of the operations that we call them joint operations, we do together with the member states. So we have, in the time frame of 2012-2013, we hosted 6 air operations. So this is across Europe, where we have officers deployed at different international European airports, where they collect the data of this. We have land borders, so basically the Turkish Greek land border, but also Eastern European land borders, but also borders towards Serbia, for example. And we have hosted, as you can see, many sea operations. There we talk about the Mediterranean Sea, the Aegean Sea, but also the Atlantic Ocean between Western Africa and the Canary Islands, which 5, 6, 7 years ago was one of the main routes, basically. And all these joint operations are basically implemented based on risk analysis, so that is conducted beforehand. We assess the risk on a long-term perspective, and then we have these operational activities together with the member states. I was once told there is no PowerPoint without an organic concept. That's basically our structure. Just to highlight a couple of things, we have a capacity building division, and basically within this capacity building division we have a research and development unit, which is also quite unique for European agencies. So we conduct our own research, internal, mostly about automation on border checks, border surveillance technology, etc. And some of you may know that Frontex has not perhaps the best reputation within fundamental rights, let's say, environment. So therefore we, perhaps that's also worth highlighting, we are the only European agency that has got a fundamental rights officer, which is part of the structure, but basically not responsible or reporting to the executive directorate. So these are some unique, Frontex unique structure, basically. The joint the operations division, that is obviously, as the name suggests, carrying out operations. There are 3 units, joint operations, subdivided into different sectors that cover land, water, sea water, and air water, and also return operations. So together with the member states, we organize joint flights for migrants that have not been granted asylum back to the origin, basically. I'm working in the Frontex Situation Center. Basically, we monitor the situation, I'll come to that in a second, and we have the risk analysis unit, which and the last 2, Frontex Situation Center and the risk analysis unit, are 2 units in Frontex that use GIS heavily, as you can imagine. So what does the Frontex Situation Center do? Not a big surprise, I guess. We are trying to provide a situational picture as near to real time as possible, and therefore that's why we get GIS into the game. So that's where we use GIS to provide to the member states the situational picture, and how we compile it, I'll come to it in a second. And basically we have the risk analysis unit, and basically they look into trends, they do analysis based on the data we have in the long term, but also operational activities, a short-term analysis based on from the data that we receive during the joint operations. Basically, immediately you see trends when the data is gathered on the spot. Some of you may have heard that the USO regulation came in force in December 2013, and this is one of the major pillars that were legislative framework that Frontex is now operating in. Basically, it's about European surveillance and establishing enhanced mechanism for European surveillance and I'll come to that, not only tackle illegal migration, but also to fight basically cross-border crime. So this is a framework, and I will come to different pillars that it includes in a second, to improve situational awareness at European level, but also in member states, and to increase the reaction capabilities. Now, Frontex is a relatively young agency. It was founded back in 2004, and in the past, border guards were working very isolated in the member state. So I told you that I have this Navy background, and basically the NATO nations working together. It was easy to just, you meet at high seas and you can immediately interoperate and interlink and exchange information. So in the border guard perspective, that's not the case, and it's still not. So this is one of the things where Frontex adds value, because we make sure that we can link the border guard, the different border guard communities. And here I'm not only talking about one community, because in several member states, and our Italian colleagues will know that very well, we have multiple structures, so different entities responsible for migration in different areas, and also cross-border crime. But this is a bit the objective, the operational, or the strategic objective of the implementation of USO. And I mentioned that we want to prevent and fight and detect illegal migration, cross-border crime, and also to contribute to the reduce or to contribute to save the lives at sea, because of these unfortunate tragedies that happens when these migrants pay a lot of money to attempt to come with unworthy boats to the European Union. I told you it's an umbrella, it's a framework, and it has different components. So the first component is obviously to have this information exchange, which did not occur or limited occur in the past. So when there was no Frontex coordinated joint operation implemented, there was no information exchange. So basically, the member state authorities are required to start information exchange, and they are mandated to create national coordination centers. So every member state, as of now, has a national coordination center. They have different tasks and different objectives, but this is an operational point of contact for Frontex and also among each other. So in order to allow them to communicate, there's also a communication network required. So to exchange this information, that also is geo-referenced information. There was a research, or there is a research in the development component, which basically resulted in a couple of FP7 projects, especially in the maritime domain, Cyprus, IC2, also Encipela, that contributed with knowledge towards this UFO framework in the last years. Risk analysis is everything what we do is based on intelligence, based on risk analysis. That's a huge component. And then it's a very Brussels bureaucratic name, common application of surveillance tools. So what that means, it's basically different type of surveillance tools, satellite-based, for example. I'll come to that later on. But also in the future, not as of now, but in the future, perhaps unmanned drone vehicles, etc. That could be perhaps centrally procured by Frontex in order to avoid, for example, that Spain and Portugal, that may have a similar interest in a third country, acquire the same data sets, not knowing that they are looking basically the same area. So that's the idea of having Frontex as an added value into coordinating different surveillance tools and acquiring different types of information. So, obviously, the main aim is to have these complete and coherent situational pictures, and then it should be across, obviously, Europe. Predictions and early notification is also where GIS comes into game, where we do analysis, image analysis, etc. They then in turn obviously support the decision-making process. You may remember in the first slide that I had this the reaction capability. So to ensure that we have this information and then the member states are able to deal with this information and to provide the correct reaction capability. And obviously in times of crisis I then emphasize on that to optimize resources to make more with less basically. I think there we are all in the same boat and we have faced the same problem. So I mentioned that it's not only related to illegal migration but also cross-border crime, and obviously we would like to contribute to the protection, saving of the lives at sea. So I mentioned this network, that's the state of implementation. So those member states that you can see highlighted here are, and Schengen associated I have to say, are connected to the Eurosur network. And by the end of this year, the remaining countries will be connected as well, and obviously there's Frontex connected. By the way, we are based in Warsaw, for those of you that know that.
Where are you based?
Warsaw, Poland. Nice city. You don't like that?
I don't like Warsaw.
Where are you from?
From Gdańsk.
Okay.
Sorry. Can't be Gdańsk.
Yes.
But you're European, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What's the position with the UK and Ireland?
They are hidden. They are behind the scenes.
The UK is not participating in Eurosur. But we have, as a Schengen associated country, we have Iceland participating, which is not an EU country. And we have Switzerland participating as Schengen associated country, and also Norway.
And Norway.
And Ireland?
Ireland is not participating in Eurosur, but obviously there is no much migratory pressure. So for one reason or another, they decided
they have to stop people from leaving.
yeah. Well, we are not responsible for that.
It was before.
That's in the east. They don't want people to leave.
So basically, so Frontex also has with this Eurosur regulation a couple of obligations. One of them is to provide this network. So we set up the network and we connected the member states with that. we are required to provide a so-called European situation picture, which contains all the information. I'll have a look in a second. We are supposed to provide a so-called common functional intelligence picture. That's also a very important. So basically, we are looking beyond the borders in the third countries, for example, in the Ukraine or in Syria, to see okay, the changes that will affect basically pressure at the external borders, so we can react more efficient and more active in the near future. And as I said, this common application of surveillance. Now, during the series of regulator framework, the so-called interagency or EU interagency cooperation has been at a very high political level and was very much emphasized and been in favor. So within this EU interagency cooperation, we already cooperate with the European Maritime Safety Agency very closely. So we have a service level agreement in place, and I will show you the type of information that we share with them. We are about to hopefully soon sign a service level agreement with the EUSATSEM, which is not a European agency as we are, because they are under the External Action Service structure and the CSTP. And obviously we have to provide data that
doesn't make sense for him to go back over the weekend. They had a long weekend, so he just stayed in Geneva and flew in on Sunday to Auckland. So I said, okay, when you're here on Tuesday afternoon, it's worthwhile to come to this workshop. And I showed him the tentative agenda that we had sent him and things like this, and so we joined.
I think the next one is Emma, and the other one is Sebastian.
Yeah. Is Hugo also staying for the conference?
I think so.
Yeah. I only saw him today actually. I didn't see him yesterday. So, but I was actually surprised because I mean the presentation is interesting.
Yeah, how much they are doing? It's amazing. Yeah.
So it was good for me to come here once. Normally it's Stefan's group.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me this is like deliver me the stuff and inspire, and I will do the rest, you know. But
yeah.
So, but I had to show some goodwill that because it looks like I'm totally not interested in it. I'm coming. So.
Pullman.
Okay.
Yeah.
From DG Region.
They're always amazing. I think these guys also do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think EA could learn something from the analytical panel.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I figure out a way of how we can message that.
A lot, I think.
So what's the next step for Inspire as a because you did now an update?
Hmm?
You did now a big update, right?
Yeah, so mostly data models, some new data models. You know, like for Landcore, what we try to do is not just copy the fields, you know, to say content-wise we have all that is requested, but also try to
find something that makes sense and maybe respond to
Yeah.
something, some best practice or some common use cases. And, you know, and the part that seems to be always a little bit weak is you have the data model, which is kind of a full representation of what they expect, and then they have the portrayal and layers, you know, when it comes to a map, and often the definition of how it should, let's say, symbolize is fairly vaguely defined, you know, because very often these models have a time dimension. They don't say which, you know, okay, you color on the value you put in this code list for the land use specification. Okay, I have 20. Which one?
Yeah.
And they don't think about time enable the layers. So, of course, if you do that, I mean, the general expectation in this part is that that's fine. You just do a little bit more than the minimum. So that's what we are trying to do. And it takes time because you need to go through all these documents.
That's hard work. But I was told by the guy in Italy, what's his name? Had a telecom that came quite some.
Oh, Satish?
Satish, yeah. He told, because we were not sure should we upgrade all our servers, our servers with the Inspire extension, or shall we split it up? And he told us split it up because we don't want that, because it would interfere maybe with the rest of your WMS services. So now we decided to make it Inspire, like we did as a test, we called it Inspire. And then the download servers that we made and view services are all typical and purely Inspire. But not necessarily this will be then used for our mapping tools that can be in other places.
I mean, with the new models we implement, probably the situation will change, but by the way, I submitted a change request in the metadata editor. I found the actual issue in the metadata. It's not the encoding, or it's a mix of things. The real problem is that there is not a cement problem in the XSLT. So it starts with the root metadata element, then that specific XML parser kind of complains.
It's good that you found it because
Autopsie s'est avéré que nous, on aurait été livré en mars 2012. Alors que nous, on a un PV de réception qui date de 52 millions.
Surtout que c'est comment ça marche pour avoir une licence.
The error is like not compliant. Period. Yeah, but it's not true at all. It's just Unicode, the coding, something that screws up with the coding. So if I open the file, the text file,
oui, c'est vrai, j'ai déjà fait aussi.
Unicode.
Mais je sais pas comment ça se fait. Est-ce que c'est GST? Et en fait, nous, même si on a fait, mais ça a été fourni par Capgemini, qui s'est procuré auprès de et comme c'est un GIS Workshop, en fait, ça vient même de chez Frontex. Alors qu'il en soit, on estime qu'on n'a pas payé pour 6 mois de maintenance alors qu'on n'a jamais eu accès à notre temps.
Tu vas pas payer pour 6 mois de quelque chose que tu n'as pas vu parce que c'est vraiment
I'm not trying to say we are perfect and the validator is wrong. For sure we may have something to fix. But even though they invited the disclaimer, this is not operational, we did our best, but you know,
en fait, c'est GIS, c'est pas leur signé sur les licences. Ok, ceux qui ont rédigé le texte, ils n'ont pas fait
write an email to us if you find something.
C'est comme la moindre chose, c'est pas comme si c'était autre chose.
It happens all the time. We receive, oh,
la question,
let's get a service that doesn't pass. Can you
oui,
check
qui demande si c'est floating, quel type de licence.
Maybe it's something we need to fix.
Et en fait, c'est ce truc-là. Alors là, maintenant, tu entends bien que là, alors que nous, on pensait. S'ils nous avaient. Enfin, oui, non, ils nous avaient posé la question, je crois, donc ils étaient au courant que nous, nos dates, mais forcément, là, ça c'est pas forcément la faute, ça, c'est là d'où vient la.
And I still need to understand that you
Mais
know that
c'est
what
pas
all
terrible.
platform has made in our
Et le
organization.
pire dans tout ça,
on
c'est que
their
l'ASP,
metadata. When I look at the
service
two,
provider,
it's
moi je suis
different.
toujours pas sûr
Like,
qu'il n'y a pas un problème. Parce
everyone,
que
for example,
on avait vu le prix
has all
d'achat
the tax
de la
within,
licence,
although they
plus
both
la
pass through the
maintenance,
system.
l'année de maintenance.
But I don't
Et le
understand
prix
why
qu'ils nous
they're
ont offert
different.
donc chez ECDC
Because I would think
était
it
dans
should
ces
be the
eaux-là
same.
pour la maintenance.
But,
Alors que justement
is
c'était
there-
le prix qu'on avait
I
normalement
need to show you
pour,
once.
à
So
l'origine.
I need to get
Pour la
some
maintenance.
strength build up. Why?
Moi, je me pose la
why
question,
this
c'est
and
comment ça se
this
fait que
is
c'est encore
why.
plus cher chez eux.
C'est leur marge, hein, mais...
Ouais, mais la fameuse marge. Et il faut savoir que mon ECDX nous a
Because
fait
within the metadata you can,
mais qui était
the
moins
tax
élevé.
can be slightly different, right?
Yes, that's the point. I mean,
Nettement moins élevé.
you do a standards,
C'est
their attempt is to try to incorporate all the possible scenarios now and in the future. So
Parce qu'en fait,
it's
ce
very,
qu'il y a,
very
c'est
connected. And then it
qu'on avait
comes to
marché trois
preventing,
paquets. Un pour des
and then you see that you
licences
could do this or
GIS,
that or
un
that.
autre pour des licences FME, et un autre pour les maintenances de licences que l'on avait déjà. Alors, ce qu'ils ont fait, parce que bon, ça c'est le jeu finalement du marché, c'est que si on prenait plusieurs
At
paquets
that
à la
point, it
même
becomes
fournisseur,
more
on
over
avait
the
une
years,
réduction.
probably. It's just best practice.
Et
It's not
puis,
that
eux,
one
ils
is
disaient,
better
on avait une
than the
réduction
other.
si on prenait
It's
les
not
trois
about
paquets.
a choice that you make.
Soit.
It's just, it is more
Et
common.
les ECDC, d'entrée de jeu, ils étaient plus chers, mais ils
know,
ont fait une
Alessandro
réduction si on prenait, à partir du moment où on prenait deux paquets.
Always making the
Et
example
c'est cette
of,
réduction-là qui a fait qu'en fait, eux,
he said, hey, you know, it's a nice
Mais-
standard.
De toute façon,
Now,
le truc c'est que
that no one
SVB,
uses
c'est
it.
un monopole de la licence SVB.
But, you know, the various providers, they kind of convert it.
En plus, c'est pas vous n'avez pas me donné le nom, vous avez
It's just
des marques à fond, etc.
Ah ben, non, on a qu'un fond, on n'a pas beaucoup, mais des algorithmes, je crois qu'il y en a à peu près 300 qui datent de l'époque de Canmap, pour 2004-2005.
Ça fait combien de maintenance vous payez?
Ça fait un fameux paquet, hein, même en review, ça c'est vraiment pas 300 licences.
C'est pas rien.
Puis là, on refait l'acquisition de licences arc-éditeur et 6
Ouais, c'est pas...
c'est pas un petit budget non plus. Hein.
Really?
Il faut processer.
Oh, for the
Again.
Send it?
La dotazione lo fai per almeno 5 milioni di euro.
You put one in between you and...
Maybe it's okay. I will.
I think they got a message from Frontex that was enough for them.
Yeah, because we have like two units that deal with GIS and have like duplicating channels. So one unit was like going out and the other one was coming. So I'll use my laptop. So if you give me at the end, would be even better. So I'll just plug it in.
You have to be for you because it's a machine.
Anyway, we still have 6 minutes.
Un caffettino speziale.
You wonder why the commission is putting passwords if they're writing it on the machine.
Really?
That's the logic.
That is cool. I did it before also. I guess.
Yeah, it was on the top.
On the top.
Well, sometimes they do it because it's dedicated presentation machines.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, from time to time, the system logs.
Yeah.
You have to enter again. That's why the password is explicitly written.
But still, why can we not make it that it doesn't ask for a password? I can't
It's a fake password. If you type it twice, it sends a big message to the DGDG.
It's an intelligence test.
I am a spy.
It's
By the way, the password is E/.
Oh. Yeah, this I think.
Yes.
So it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so let's start.
Following the schedule.
Yeah, Lorenzo, go ahead.
I'd like to talk to you today about a project that is being done in ECDC and to give just a few details regarding the project and focus a bit on the approach that we are using and how this is similar to other approaches that we've seen. And then conclude with some questions, open questions for reflection. So the project I'm about to present is called EMMA, which stands for ECDC Mapping and Multilayer Analysis. And it's an enterprise solution for the EU agency I work for. This is a small presentation on ECDC, so it's the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control based in Stockholm. It was established in 2005 by the European Parliament, and the mandate is that to protect European citizens' health against emerging threats, communicable diseases, and to support the work of EU member states in the field of surveillance, in the field of outbreak response, and scientific advice. ECDC was identified as a core activity, so a small ECDC team was built, and there was a need assessment study inside the house. So by the time the GIS team was set up, there was already GIS activity going on, but it was at departmental level, project-based, and then we thought to change a bit that way of working with GIS, because we saw common needs, we saw that the same data set was required, and that probably there was also a need for standards. So why HEMA? What does this organization need from GIS? We need to visualize and track diseases in space and in time. We have a need for a holistic approach for disease analysis, surveillance data, identification of social environmental determinants, prospective modeling, forecasting modeling. We need interoperability between systems, tools and data. In-house we have at least 3 or 4 or 5 different systems. One is for surveillance, one is just for disease tracking, another one is just for document management system, and all of these systems in the end need to speak to each other. We have the need to share disease data within records, within applications, within member states that have explicit requests, within projects. And we need to define standards for mapping, because as a corporate agency, we need to have same type of formats for our reporting work. The challenges that we faced was that in reality we still have silos-based structure for data. The GIS projects are often carried out individually, so it's a departmental GIS. We have a limited number of GIS software licenses and GIS skilled staff that know how to use those softwares. And we also have a limited capacity to retrieve and consume spatial data from other sources. So every time that we have an exercise where we need data, we don't record the learned lessons. We have to redo it all over again, and maybe next door colleagues are looking for the same data that we look for. So we're missing really an enterprise approach. So as a solution to this, we thought about having a system that is here just represented with the portal page. And what is really EMA? What is it? It's an enterprise solution. It's made by two main components, the backend component and the front-end component. The backend component, it contains the enterprise data, the geoprocessing services, the map services, and the procedures and standards that are basically there not just for the sake of the front-end component, but for any other clients that are built in the organization will be built. And in the specific case of EMA, we have a front-end component, which is clearly a WebGIS component, client. It's used to, through its use, member states and ECDC experts can easily create a map. They can add disease data from their local file or to connect directly to ECDC disease repositories. They can connect to other GIS providers, for example, EEA, ESRI, Eurostate data. It features some customized analysis tools to deal with case-based data and aggregated disease data. So it's a specific tool specifically designed for the type of data we have to work with. And it enables users to export map to corporate images. And this tool basically can be used by anyone with very limited knowledge of GIS, because all the joining of codes with geometries, the summarization of case-based data, the search for data from other providers is fairly facilitated. So we try to close the gap from the geographic need and the non-expert GIS people, so that they can fit together. This is the portal page, and just one step back, you can see that it has more modules. It has a page for a home page, then you have the Go mapping where the activity is basically carried out. Then there's a GeoGallery that is used to share results and maps. GIS documents for people who are interested in retrieving training or to document themselves on SOPs or selected publications. And then GIS in Project is a page where we publish about new projects that are benefiting from the back end of EMA, so that we can show how the enterprise solution is actually benefiting other projects. What happens in the Go mapping, basically, when we create a map, we are what we do there, we just add a CSV data set, very simple. The system automatically geocodes this by using NUTS codes from Eurostat. And we have created for these a specific geocoding system, so that the system knows how to bring in geometries. And the first step, user can quickly come to a map. He can symbolize it, and then it can export using a predefined layout. This is basic use of EMA. A little bit more advanced use of EMA is for those who want to start to calculate rates. So as we bring in data and it's geocoded by NUTS, then automatically we join in Eurostat statistics. So the user specifies a region, an area, an administrative unit, and a number of cases, and the system automatically will tell him how many people live there for the age groups, for example. So this is really using data provided by other EU agencies, they make it work together. Third level of I would say, overlaying of information from different sources is, for example, this, when we are overlaying disease data. In this case, is data on the respiratory tract infection, and we are looking for determinants from pollution, and of course we think about a European Environmental Agency in this case. So we just we connect directly to their GIS server within the application, and we retrieve the data. And then the system from here on can move towards analysis of this information. We can calculate correlation, we can identify patterns, and basically this is a way for non-experts to put information together without going through the hard pain of retrieving the data, storing them on your machine, owing a software, it's also a problem. When the work is finished and the user is happy with the map that he has created, then he can publish it with the GeoGallery, so that also the other user of the EMA community can share that, can see that. As I anticipated, there is a page for training, so that people can get more familiar with the tool. And finally, this is a place where we give some visibility to the other projects that are ongoing or finalized that benefit from the backend. And just to mention some we have the EGIS and the waterborne map viewer for the EGIS network, the E3G portal, the Zubella dynamic map system, now it's called Surveillance Dashboard. That is a project that's going to be live very soon. It's going to be quite big news for ECDC, and several disease atlases. So, as a result of this project, what we achieved so far was to provide the experts in ECDC, in the EU member states, to the Commission, with a full integrated system. It's free of license costs. It can be used to produce disease maps, access and share spatially enabled data on European health, environment and socioeconomics. It's a seamless integration with other EU agency systems in support of the holistic approach to health environment analysis. So it's really an integration on data. We are able to bring in data or to send data to the others. As a final result, we have measured an increased agency productivity in GIS outputs because we shifted from departmental model to enterprise, and now we are moving from file-centered to web-centered GIS. So in 1 year we managed to establish this, and then in the following year at least 4 web GIS applications were built from scratch. So we could see how after the initial investment, then we started to see really a rapid increase in our productivity. Then, thinking about the workflow and the method, as I've been participating to many conferences where I meet other colleagues from EU agencies, and we've been discussing what is the workflow you have in-house, how many do you have procedures, what tools do you use? Oh great, you have this data set, it would be so good for the health section to have this data within the analysis. So we started to kind of discuss, how much similar are we, how much different are we? Does it make sense to have a knowledge of our diversities and commonalities, specifically for the GIS hands-on topics? So I made here a small example based on my experience in ECDC and my knowledge in European Environmental Agency business. I'm very happy if I have made some mistakes, I'm very happy to have the feedback. Yeah. So I see that both agencies, for example, they are interested in data collection, in data production, data analysis and sharing. They both need to develop WebGIS application and having specific geoprocessing tools. Actually, I'm very happy you showed that one today because that's the geoprocessing tool. It has the target audience is both public, but can also be just trusted users. So talking about confidential information here that cannot be disseminated to everybody. And I think there is a higher demand in time from the stakeholders, but the team is always small. Or in another way, if we want to think about economic finance austerity, economic austerity, I think it's normal that the budgets are getting smaller, but the demands are always higher and higher. And I asked myself this question, and I found this similarity in the case of EEA. So I started looking at, okay, can I describe how EEA is working with the workflow and which type of components it's using for the GIS infrastructure? And then I tried to see what we are doing and to see if we have common areas. So when I'm looking at the EEA, what I see is that the data is coming inside from countries, and it goes to report.net where it's validated. Then this data is used by the authors, the map authors, so the authoring on the desktop. And then from there, map services are created. Those map services then are stored as web services in the cloud. And then on top of that is all the web GIS, the web application business that starts using templates and investing in customization of those configurations so that you reduce the development costs. And all of this, of course, is organized into a framework so that you can have then the validation. You know that if the information reaches a certain level, it's already validated. You don't need again to go through procedures for green light and so on. So it's ready to go to the clients, to the publication material, and so on. So when I looked at this, I was struck because I really thought, oh my gosh, we're doing exactly the same thing. We're just a little bit less evolved, but more or less we are doing exactly the same. So if we look at what ECDC is doing, so we receive data from member states and they go into TESI, which is the European surveillance system. Now there is a work on standardizing this data because unfortunately there is heterogeneity between countries, case definition and so on. So we have a team and a project that standardize this data, and it's called the workbench. So that data now is clean. This data then is passed to us, to the GIS experts, where we alter the map project using desktop software. And then from then on, we move to the publishing, to the server technology. And this is basically where we kind of stop there. What we're doing right now, we are working a lot on developing those map services based on the requirements of the projects, of the stakeholders and the member states. And then regarding, let's say, on the right-hand side of the PowerPoint slide, we are still pioneering there. What we're doing there, we are hard coding a lot. So we have a lot of costs. It's very difficult for us to accommodate for change requests from the stakeholders, and we're always behind deadline. It's very difficult because we need to rely continuously on hard coding, so on developers. We totally depend on the developer. He's the main stakeholder. Yeah? So what we look forward, so we started practicing this. I mean, we started having some out-of-the-box or web clients in JavaScript and just doing minimal configuration. And we started to use that with disease experts, with the heads of disease programs, who started to appreciate that we're just providing them a link, they can go into their workshop and open the entire map project with all the layers without having knowledge of where the data is, how it was symbolized. I mean, the work has been done before. And of course, we have, as an agency, we have a lot of reports that we produce, but the green light for providing reports outside, it's still a big issue for all the agency because we have a lot of hierarchies to go through, and sometimes you have to go through twice just because the document passed to another section. And we think that if we reinforce this type of framework, then it's also easier for us to ensure quality control, quality assurance, quality control. So I think that I should copy all your work.
I'm learning, but I'm doing exactly what you do. I'm also going learning what others are doing and pick out the best pieces that fits for me. And I think that's what we also do. Because again, it's always it's interesting to see that that a lot of things are just copyable from what we are doing. But I also think that everybody's case is slightly different, and we need to make sure that we are. You look at your own business case to make sure that it fits. You have to always keep that in mind. But I'm very happy to see that it's actually what we should do more maybe is to map each other's infrastructure and see, hey, how does that work and why have you done that? What's the benefit towards it? And maybe that's what this arena should do more here, that we have in these GIS days, that we look at each other's, maybe even offline, and then present it and say, okay, I see what you do here. We have a similar problem and we do it this way, and show each other the benefits of this. Very interesting.
So, but my opinion is that we could benefit from sharing all of this knowledge, the strategies for implementing. I can imagine some about lesson learned on the key aspect of the GIS implementation, identification of requirements, for example, workflow design, quality assurance and control, interoperability of systems, sharing of data security. And one, I think it's identification of requirements, for example. I'm sure that every GIS expert in this audience does not have always easy time with their managers to pass the message, to explain the benefit of requirement. I mean, it can take 1 year just to get the approval to share map service, just because there is still this old-fashioned sometimes, or because they don't see really the benefit. I've been asked sometimes in my career, I was in another company, I was asked, can we use GIS to make analysis? After they hired me, they asked me, can we use GIS for making analysis? So I realized that sometimes the need of GIS is still really under debate in some cases. And maybe, you know, by the way that other agencies manage the requirement collection, the business case, that can also help the others to overcome this sometimes resistance in stakeholders.
Like how to convince your management.
Yes.
Sometimes it will be very useful.
Yes.
And we have the same, I guess.
Yes.
What I also learned in every agency, and also in ours, GIS is not always centralized. We have GIS all over the place, and so even this is great. But I think even in our own organization we have that, especially at least in our case, we made something what we call a GIS club. So basically, we just initiated that once a month. Everybody comes together, but then there is a mailing group out there. Yes. And what happens is that people start using that because, first of all, they have to know that you're doing GIS. It's not always the case that people know who is doing what and what are they using. And so this also helped actually. So, but this is then the next step, I would say, on this. So.
I'm thinking about also a better integration between the ICT department and business side. Because what I've seen from some experiences is that sometimes there is a debate between is GIS ICT, is GIS scientific, is GIS business, or is it ICT? And I think by sharing this, we can also come to a agreement, or what is GIS from a management point of view, and what is the wide distribution of the role responsibilities. This is a never-ending story, but I am sure that this is the case for many
also our case. We had when we got a new director 10 years ago, they moved everything, the whole GIS department was kind of dumped into a development group. And it just slightly started dying because all the demands that are came there, the project man or the program manager there decided, okay, is this a development or not? And most of the times the things were kicked out, so it ended up becoming very bad for GIS. So, so it took us a couple of years to realize that and get out again and really get the group reinitiated.
It's amazing to listen to you because it's actually what is happening in most of the local governments, where the movement of GIS and the creation of an infrastructure in the local government obey to the same problem. And it's strictly the same.
We're all human, I guess.
It's a matter of organization, big organization with silos, and what GIS is about is to cut across all the silos.
And every time a director changes, the discussion comes, should be this a vertical implementation or a horizontal implementation.
Exactly.
And so each time you have to rediscuss that.
Just to complete my presentation, I believe that by sharing more, we also have a smaller learning curve for the teams because we have directly hands-on information from people who've already done that, as it's easy to understand each other and the requirements. And as a final result of this, I would suggest that this would increase the productivity of an agency and hence would lower the costs. And thank you very much for your time.
Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to look into Emma
TESI is new to me. I know ReportNet, but I've never seen TESI. But as I understood you, it does the same almost. So which format do you collect the spatial data in, and is it Inspire compliant?
We are looking into Inspire because we're trying to close this gap. We looked into health data for Inspire schema, which is not there yet. It's Annex 3, I think. So we have this problem in defining exactly what we need. But we're very much convinced that we should learn and contribute to Inspire for that, because we think that we have some metadata that is a bit consolidated. The problem with the TESI, the data that comes to TESI, that it comes from consolidated disease networks that have been there for 20 years. It's very difficult to change that. So what I can see is that now we learned how to standardize them. And maybe this is the moment where we could apply, inject the Inspire at the moment of the standardization. But I would say, think it's very difficult to ask member states that provide health data to stick to Inspire, because they themselves have networks that are so much consolidated that cannot really be influenced by the others. If we collect data for one disease, for example, it might be the case that we cannot compare Italy and France, because the case definition is different. So we need the epidemiologists, we need the public health experts that look at the data and say, okay, we should aggregate those cases, those ones should be deleted because we have two, we can have more sources within one country for one disease. So that only when the expert extracts the data from testing, then he knows about this, and this is the way the network is supposed to, so you can't change it. We are trying to do web services to communicate this data. So we usually have the data call. So it's different methods which we're trying to establish web services to do this automatically. And now testing is becoming more and more flexible, and at the same time on top of it we build the standardization process. So all the data is standardized on a year base. That is the only problem. So it's frozen for 1 year. But you know that if you need data for that year, you can just download it, it will be comparable, it will use the math codes, you will have the population and so on. So you can do analysis, you can inject it into EMA. But I think it's very interesting to think about the Inspire in this process.
Yeah, we have the same. Data flow takes 5 to 10 years to change. Because you have to negotiate with the country, there's a whole process going on before you can execute that change. And even if you do that, then there is a certain level, like a couple of years of instability because of that change. So I've gone already through a couple of those in my career. Yeah, it is not easy. And this tells us also, that's why I'm also saying in the beginning, Inspire will make a difference, but it will take some time. It might be after my career, I don't know. But it's not something that just happens, you know. You have to be aware of that. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yes. I'm going to make a simple presentation about the EEA GIS infrastructure we have. So a bit what we did in the past, what's happening now, so how we improved, and what are our plans for the future. So I'm Sébastien Petit, I'm GIS manager and system administrator of the European Environment Agency. I work in Jan's group with Rolf and some other colleagues. And I'm going to show you a bit of this. So this is a general view. So we have, I would say, 45 users doing GIS or using GIS. But when I say that, I'm lying completely because it's 45 users who may use GIS one day a year on their computer. So we have like the simple user who have ArcInfo, want to have ArcInfo installed and will one day want to use it and don't remember, oh, I used that 15 years ago when I was working in blah, 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 and I'm going to do some data and calling okay, it doesn't work, what should I do, blah blah, but we also have like some super enthusiast users like Jan, you've seen like some goals, or some new user like Rolf, who is more a designer but who is jumping into the GIS world. So we have everything, which is a bit sometimes difficult to manage because it can go in any direction. So we have desktop and data users, we have developers, not so many. We have some people doing maintenance, we have some people doing Inspire. So we have all you want. Doing data production, knowledge of data, data management, cartography, integration, analyze, infrastructure, and in the past help desk. I was doing that, but I don't have time to do it anymore, so today we have a bit gap there of real help desk. I'm not saying installing a software, but when you have this kind of different users, it's really difficult to help them when they come with a question, because it can be any question, so it can be like a real GIS help desk. We need someone who can help on I have a problem to install my software, but I don't know what kind of analyze I should do with this kind of What should I use font, what should I use vector, what should I use raster? So it's a bit tough there.
We have basically a community of people. What's interesting is that the help desk doesn't become one person anymore, because you build a group, people help each other, and then our group still, when there's heavy problems, we take it up.
That's where Jan spoiled me a bit with the GIS club and this kind of thing. So we've set up, it was impossible to be a GIS manager and help desk at the same time because it's two different tasks and it's too time consuming. So now we still help people, because we are not going to say, oh, it's your problem, just have fun with it, we don't care, but it's more like, we just talk to each other to see, oh, we can help the best person having a problem.
Point to somebody who can help.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we using for tools? We are using desktop tools, so the classic SV suite from, I will use the old name, sorry, but I'm not used to the new name with ArcGIS Advanced and blah 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 blah, so ArcInfo, ArcEditor and ArcView. Some people use GRASS, some use QGIS, NV, so we have some NV users, and now, since a few months we have at least one super big user of FME. And also, we discovered FME lately this year. It's really strange because we never used it before, but like Jan showed in his presentation, it's really helping us a lot. Also, we have some server. We use ArcGIS server mainly. It's one of my big responsibilities. Not me, but we use